Welcome back to the Chasing Tone Podcast. I, of course, am Brian Wampler, and today I bring you another special Tone Tips segment of the Chasing Tone Podcast. Tone Tips is basically where I show you guys stuff. I might actually play a little bit of guitar, and we talk about just you and me, just us alone. We talk about something that might help you, rather than me and Blake or me and Travis or me and whoever else. Just, having a conversation. So this is more like me and you talking and me helping answer some of the questions that you guys send me. So today I am actually going to talk about tube amps and what makes a tube amp pedal friendly. Now, there's not. Before I really get into this, let me preface this by saying these are my opinions. I am not always. I mean, there is no like right or wrong, just opinions. And so, what you're getting is my opinion. So take that with a grain of salt. I don't know everything. Even though I try to tell my wife that I do, I actually don't. My wife always reminds me that I don't, so that's okay. It all evens out, right? But yeah, so I'm actually playing through the Bravado amp, which, if you don't know, is the new Wampler amp that is out now. See wamplerpedals.com. It will be in stores in January. It's shipping like now. So be in stores in January. You'll be able to try it out at your local retailer. Unless your local retailer is, not wanting to carry the amp, in which case you should get really mad at them and tell them to. Anyways, so there's all kinds of different amps that really sound good. Okay. And some of those amps are not pedal friendly. Some are pedal friendly, and this is probably going to kind of rub some people the wrong way. But like I said, just my opinion. So let's take like a Vox AC15 for example. I like the amp. I do like the sound of it. I do believe that it is not that user friendly as far as pedals go. So it's a little finicky. And there's several reasons for it. Same way with like some of the blackface stuff is, if you get like a stock twin or a stock deluxe reverb or something like that, it can be a little finicky. So I took all those things, and that's just, I know it's just two different amps, but the reason why I bring those two up is I like elements of each of those and of the Marshall stuff. I like a lot of the Marshall stuff too, but as far as a pedal-friendly amp, the main culprit that I find to really be the determining factor of what makes an amp pedal-friendly or not is basically the brightness. And I like to have some EQ control as well. So, but I like a lot of controls, right? Obviously by our pedals. But there's a bright cap that I call it a bright cap. If you look at like a Fender Twin, it's there's actually a switch that says bright. It's like on or off. And a lot of amps are this way too. It's like a bright on or off switch. And this is generally, it's just one capacitor that is, I'm trying to explain this in a little bit dumbed down terms here so I don't get all nerded out on you. Okay, so on a potentiometer, which your volume pot would be a potentiometer, if you put a capacitor on there in a certain way, then when the volume is down, so unless it's up all the way, in other words, then you're going to get some high frequency content that passes through. Now, there's a lot of different things to determine like what frequency it is and how bright it is and all that. So what I always wanted to do is I always wondered why is there just like one setting? It's like off or super bright. And I didn't like that because I liked my clean tone when it was brighter. But some pedals, especially once you start gaining things up, meaning adding a lot of gain pedals to it, it gets fizzy, gets really fizzy on top. And so that's what I wanted to achieve with the Bravado. I put 6 different levels of brightness on it. And that's totally different than like a presence control, where a presence control, there's different ways of doing it, but it's usually on the tail end of the circuit, and it can help as well, a presence control, but I really find that capacitor off of that volume control, that's really what makes that, well, not that alone, but that's one of the things that, and I would say that probably the main thing that really determines whether an amp is user or pedal friendly or not. Not user friendly. All amps are most amps are fairly user friendly. I have seen some amps that have 85 knobs on. I'm looking at one right now and it has like 8 rows of knobs, 45 switches on it. And it's just a kind of a pain. But anyways, back to the topic. So with the Bravado amp, we have, of course, a 3-band EQ. You can shift the mid, so you can get like a little mid bump, which is kind of a fun thing to do if just really depending on the cabinet. So if you have a bigger cabinet, that's kind of fun to bump that up. Also helps cut through a little bit too if you're having trouble cutting through if you're playing live. And this one does have an effects loop as well, buffered effects loop. And I don't think I can really, I mean, I can explain it, but I think what's really going to help you is to kind of demonstrate it while I explain it, right? So right now, I've just thrown a couple mics in front of a cabinet, so my apologies if the sound isn't 100% awesome, just because I had to crank one of these podcasts out. I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't have the 3 or 4 hours to really spend time, moving a mic a quarter inch at a time. So with that said, here we go. I'm playing a Les Paul, by the way. Okay, so like I said, there are 6 different levels of brightness. Let me start down at the bottom. So this would be the least brightest position. And actually, let me put my EQ straight up and down so it's all neutral, or as neutral as it's going to be. All right, so here we go once more. Now, I will go to position 2. A little bit brighter. Position 3. Position 4. Position 5. And lastly, position 6, which is really chimey, much more like a AC, a Voxy style amp, like an AC30 or something. All right, so that is the brightest. And again, a bridge. Pretty bright, a little bit honky, and very chimey. With that said, let me show you what is going to happen whenever you run a distortion pedal through some different settings, and I'll explain along the way. Okay, so normally I would, like a good clean tone to me is probably something around this area. Actually, maybe a little brighter. Let me turn it up just a little bit more. Now, keep in mind, this is like, I know I'm throwing in a lot of caveats here, but like, I like different tones, so I'm not going to use that tone every time. But if someone said, hey, point out put me a good clean tone, then I would probably dial something like that in just because I'm playing clean. I'm playing chordy type stuff. I want it to be a little chimey. But the problem comes in with this. I'm just using a Boss DS1 here, just a basic Boss DS1, nothing, no mods or anything. So whenever you have something chimey like that, here's what happens. Now you can, of course, dial some of that out with the tone control, but the tone control on a pedal is totally different than like the bright control on an amp. So let me dial the tone control on the pedal back down. About 9 o'clock. A little below 9 o'clock now. So it's still not the optimum thing I would go for. So let me dial some of that brightness out. I'll turn the tone control back up on the pedal. We'll see what it sounds like. So it's a little bit better that way. I like it a little better. Right now I'm on position, I think I'm on position 2 on the bright control on the amp. Let me go all the way down to the darkest setting. Now you're going to notice that gives, by changing all these positions, that makes your tone controls have a whole different range. So you can get more sounds out of the stuff. So let me show you. So that is a Boss DS1 distortion. So let me do something real quick. Let me switch guitars, and I'm going to go through a little bit of a different test with a tube screamer. Okay, so right now I'm playing a Whitfill Strat, my off-white Whitfill Strat. I am on the darkest setting, I think. Let me check. Yep, on the darkest setting. Now this bridge pickup is a little bit bright, so it's going to sound pretty decent on the darker setting. Kick the DS1 on. So let me change the bright setting a little bit. Now let me go to the tube screamer. Okay, so what I would do with this particular setting, with this particular pedal, stock TS9, I actually would dial up the brightness just a little bit because I wanted a little bit glassy with the Strat. Now let's say I want it a little bit more glassy. Let me dial in the brightness control on the Strat on the neck pickup. So if you want something, like that glassy shimmer that a lot of Strat guys, a lot of Strat players have, not all of them, but some of my favorite ones anyways, that's a good thing to do. I like to use a tube screamer to really get a little bit more mid-range, and then hit the neck pickup, add a little bit of brightness to it. It's just incredibly useful to have that bright control on an amp. And as I also said before, that particular capacitor, where it's at in the circuit, in my opinion, that's one of the things that makes an amp very pedal friendly is the value of that capacitor, how glassy, how bright it is, and I really love the ability to be able to change that on the fly. So I hope this was helpful to you in some way. I hope it kind of gave you an insight as to, one, why some amps work really well with pedals and why some don't. And I didn't really even get into, a totally clean platform versus slightly dirty. Just more about that, the brightness and getting, the shrillness that some amps will have. Also, too, hope it kind of gave you an insight as to what our Bravado sounds like, why I even designed the amp, and, what I'm trying to achieve with it. So if you have any questions or comments, please email podcast@wamplerpedals.com. Hope you got something out of this little podcast here, and I really appreciate you listening. So we're right in the middle of the Christmas season, so you may not hear from me next week. I'm going to take a few days off. But have a good holiday, and we'll talk to you within a week or two. Thanks for listening.